my beautiful souls. Danielle here from Transcendence to the Truth. Hopefully the wind is not too hectic with my microphone. I'm like trying to block it with my body. So let me know if the sound is not fabulous. I feel weird wearing sunglasses, but I know I'm going to be super squinty eyed. I'm like, oh, you can't see my eyes, which is a huge thing for me. I'm going to wait for a couple of people to jump on. When you jump on, please put a 1 if you're watching now, a 2 if you're watching the replay. Basically, the reason I'm specifically jumping on is because I was triggered into my own judgments and, what would you call that? Resistance to the Ascension process that I'm going through, right? So, we're actually going through a mass awakening. We're going through mass amounts of Ascension at the moment, and if you look around at the people, if you're just starting to wake up, or if you've been on your spiritual journey for a while, you'll find that everyone's going through some mass shifts, huge shifts, and in that it's because the collective energy and the energy on the planet now is just expanding at such a massive speed, and there's so much incoming light on the planet at the moment. So my last Ascension, I'll tell you why I got triggered into doing this video and sharing, because I know the symptoms of Ascension, I know the process of it, yet I still go into little judgments. So I got a photo shoot on Saturday morning, and I have put on, like 5 kilos in the last couple of months, and for me that's like, I'm just like, oh, not ego. Well, it is ego. It's more the uncomfortability. It's actually not about the visual look. It's about the uncomfortability in my body and the amount of inflammation and the swelling, and it's like my body's being possessed. And if you understand the Ascension process, you'll understand it technically is being invaded. So my last Ascension went for about 18 months, which was, and I had no fucking idea what was going on in my life. So an Ascension is a trigger, something that will happen to you to either wake you up, or it'll be a trigger to activate the cells and the DNA within your body to start the Ascension process. So I was triggered, and it took me 18 months to get through this process. Now I resist less, I understand the process, I do the work, I look after my body, I do the spiritual practices, and the process is no longer a massive challenge, because I'm understanding and I'm in allowance. And for me, I'm like, oh right, awesome, the trigger, and then what comes from that just means that I'm getting to a higher frequency and a higher vibration within myself, and I'm ascending and getting closer to the truth within this human experience, right? So the first thing is you get triggered. That activates everything within your body, and then what that does is it actually activates your body to open up to receiving more light. Your body is becoming, so you know when people say, oh, you just see the light in me, or you're a shining light, you're a lighthouse, whatever it is about that specific person, it is because they are actually illuminating more light within their being. All right, so there are many people that are asleep and have very, very limited light. We are all light. The problem is that we have forgotten, so it's not embodied in this physical density. But it activates that, and then what happens is, because you've activated this time to bring in all this light into your body and transcend into a higher frequency and a higher state of being, you are then going through all this shadow work. So it's what's called purging. So if you think about the cells, right, and you just think about it from a scientific point of view, you've got your cells, and I'm sorry if that's windy. You've got your cells, and they have all of this dirt and grime and old beliefs and stagnant energies, if we look at it. And when it's activated and it's ready to bring in mass amounts of light, because there's so much light on the planet at the moment, and we're literally going through a huge shift, then what happens is, to actually make room in that cell for the light, you have to clean and away the old, right? So it's like the shadow work you would have heard me talk about, releasing, letting go of the old, things that no longer serve you. It's exactly the same within the cells of your body. So your cells and your DNA hold memories, and it's the same when you start rewiring your brain and you start retraining your brain. What happens is your old programming, your old DNA structure, your old cell formulation has to clear away to make room for all of that light, right? So that purging phase is like, going through a dark night of the soul, if you want to call it that, or you go through some pretty uncomfortable, traumatic experiences usually, or there's a whole lot of emotional anguish that can come up, with a whole lot of patterns come up to be seen to the light, to basically shift away anything that is from the old to make way for this new embodiment of light and frequency, right? So that, then you call it, what is it? There's actually a word for it. Light emitting, where the light then floods your body, right? So some of these symptoms are, the harvest beautiful. I'm probably getting burnt because it's the first time my skin's seen sun for ages because of the rain. But basically what happens is that when our body's going through this huge shift, right? So spiritually and our mind and us, from that energetic point of view, we can shift at the speed of space. We can, go through massive shifts really, really quickly. But our body takes a lot longer to catch up and integrate. So what happens is, because you've got huge amounts of purging, right? So this is not just like when you're going through an ascension, you're going through a massive shift. Some people have, only experienced one through their initial awakening when they first wake up. I think now that there's more people choosing truth and actual consciousness on the planet, people are having several ascensions. I'm in my second ascension. I've had a lot of little upgrades, but when it comes to the ascension process, this is my second big ascension. And it is, when you've had so much harmony in your life for so long, it's fucked up. And you want to resist it because your ego is up and it's raring to go, and it's bringing everything to the surface that was in your peripherals and in your shadows. So it's not fun. And this work isn't fun, but it's worth it because you actually do find peace, and you do find joy, and you find actual unconditional love. And the amount of positives that come out of doing the work is so much beyond the uncomfortability of these little stages and processes, and it's just practicing being an allowance of it. So one of the main symptoms, now can I think of it? Normally I'd write notes. Fatigue, right? So if you think about, your bodies are rearranging their cells to embody more light. Your body is going through huge shifts and changes. So it takes a lot of energy to rearrange the matter within your body and get rid of the old to upgrade to a new frequency. So fatigue and tiredness is one of the main symptoms people feel. Two is you've got a couple. I can't find one word for it, but we'll say irregular body irregularities within your body, right? So your central nervous system becomes super sensitive. So if you start to awaken and you start to become more aware, you are more sensitive. So becoming more sensitive is where your mind and your being is actually more in tune with the energetics that it then has to integrate within your physical matter and your physical body. So your central nervous system becomes very sensitive, and your immune system, because you've got so much going on within, your actual body thinks that it's kind of being attacked and foreign. You're going to have symptoms that go on with immune disorders. So you might have digestive symptoms, you might have irregular, fatigue, cognitive issues within your mind, concentration, confusion. I'm trying to think of all the autoimmune symptoms, and I honestly can't even think of them. But I was in and out of hospital and doctors for 18 months thinking I was going to die because I thought I had an autoimmune disease, right? Turns out I was just waking up. Funny that. But, there are many things. Joint pain, what else? Many things within your body, because it feels like it's being attacked. So it goes into, and if you think of all the dirty old cells and all of the releasing and the purging, it's actually going into your body that needs your body's autoimmune system to actually kick up a notch to clear that away and clear all of that junk and remove it. So that is one of them. What else is there? Brain, where is it? Well, confusion is one, or actually I'll go 3 will be isolation or disconnection, right? So it's a time where you feel extreme amounts of being alone, and a lot of loneliness and a lot of disconnect. You'll find that when I say disconnect, what's happening is your old frequency, whatever your energetic vibration was, you're plugged into this level of energy, and then what happens is you actually are shifting out of this energy and you're going into the next level of whatever your frequency and your ascension is going to pull you into. So you're currently in no man's land, or you're in this in-between stage where you're not actually plugged into any real strong frequency, and you're like integrating into the new. So what happens is a lot of people will lose all their friends. Their family will disconnect from them, or their relationships will end. They may lose their job. It literally feels as though you have everything from what you knew and everything you identified with as being a part of your life and who you are just fades away and disappears. And especially in the initial awakening stages, because you've gone from probably never ever waking up and being in this really low frequency to shifting into a completely different reality. So, as you move on forward, like I am, I still have people that are choosing the amount of consciousness I am. However, I do have to continually release and let go of a lot of old, because most people are not willing to choose the amount of consciousness that I am, or to that level of truth, no matter what it takes, whatever you have to go through, whoever you let go of, whatever beliefs you have to crumble and destroy to get to that point and to that level of remembering who you actually are, and ascension or transcendence or whatever you want to call it. So that is actually a thing. What else is there? Brain, where is it? Where's my brain? But the confusion. So that is also a thing of like when you. So that's 4. Cognitive confusion, because you've actually pulled yourself away from an old energy field and you're in no man's land. You're in confusion because you haven't integrated into a new level. So it's like taking away everything you knew, and then you're like, what the fuck, I don't even know what's going on in my life anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm here, there, and everywhere, until you start to actually shift and energetically go into a new vibration. You also then have massive amounts of grief and loss, all right? So a lot of people think that the huge amounts of grief and loss and sadness and emotional turmoil that you're feeling and expressing and going through, and the purging in emotions, and the releasing, and that is all a part of the purging. But what it is it's actually it's not to do with the actual exterior grief and loss, right? So we always think, oh, well, I'm grieving the loss of my relationship, or I'm grieving the loss of my old job, or my friends, or I'm going through massive amounts of grief. But sometimes it's so strong, that grief and loss feels like death, right? But you haven't had anyone die. There's been no amount of death in your life, but the amount of grief and loss you feel is like that. And because that is what it's signifying. What it's signifying is actually what's triggered within your being is the grief and loss of who you were, right? You're actually grieving and releasing and emotionally letting go of the old person, or the person that you are letting go of, because that person no longer exists anymore. You have completely disconnected from that energy field, and you won't resonate to that person once you have integrated completely into your new frequency and you've done the Ascension process. So, metal detector, that's cool. Wonder if they'll find me gold. And then I laugh at myself because I'm like, well, you don't need anything. It's material, and material stuff means nothing. So that is one of the other things, is the massive amount of emotional grief and loss that's going to come up for you. And then you've got 6. So that is your heart, right? So where your heart chakra is going to explode. It's going to explode and open up to so much love, so much light. And the thing is that when your heart chakra, and we're heading into like a more heart-centered living on the planet, there's a lot of people understanding that your heart brain is actually one of the more powerful centers, that this should be your main chakra. That may piss people off, but if you're living from love and connection, and this is where our spirit sits within here, then you start to understand that your heart chakra is expanding to so much, and you'll have a lot of love and compassion for the people around you, because you start to see things differently, and you start to understand that everyone's doing the best that they can with the awareness and the understanding that they have. The people that are being assholes in your life are lessons to you. Their behavior is usually very unconscious and from their own ego, and that is challenging because they're actually not doing it because of you. They're doing it for their own stuff. So you start to have this level of understanding and love and compassion, and you don't hold resentments. But the thing is, when you're starting to come to that space within your heart, what happens is that heart is physically within your body taking a beating. So what it's doing, I hope this microphone's okay, no one said anything. So what happens is you will have irregular heartbeats, you will have heart palpitations, you may be sitting there and you may feel like your heart is literally expanding out of your chest. So that for me has always been one of the more challenging ones. I actually had my heart monitored when I thought I was dying for irregular heartbeats, because I was wearing an Apple iPad, whatever thingy watch, and a Fitbit at certain times throughout my ascension, because I honestly thought that I was really sick. That my heartbeat, so I would sit down and then I would stand up, and my heartbeat would go up to over 200 beats a minute. So those sort of heart fluctuations and palpitations can be super, super duper 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 uncomfortable, and it's not enjoyable, especially if you start to go into resistance of all of these things and you start to freak out like I did, because what happens is your contracted energy is actually fighting the ascension process. And had I understood it a little bit more, maybe then I would have had the awareness to not fight it, but it was exactly perfect what I need to experience for myself at that time anyway. So, you know, if you're getting this, you're getting it because you're ready to receive it. If you're not, then you're probably struggling like I did. But the level of intensity of what your heart can go through, if you go into resistance and reacting, that heart and that readjusting and the rhythm, so what happens is the rhythm of your heart will adjust more into the flow of your spirit, and to the amount of light in your body. You will actually cause more discomfort within your heart space, because your anxiety is going to trigger heart palpitations. So it's just going to be more on top of it, which is then when you're probably going to go to the doctor and be like, hey, I've got tachycardia and POT symptoms, like what's wrong with me? Which, if you truly believe there's something wrong with you, of course go to a doctor, 100%. Go get all your bloods run, get all those things tested, look at all different points of views and possibilities, but you will know within yourself. It's funny because I actually had the thought that I was dying. I was dying. My personality and my ego and who I was, the character I had created in this reality, died. So interesting metaphors and how our mind can create very interesting things. Those are 6 of the main Ascension symptoms. Sorry, this video went on for a little bit longer. If you are going through any of these or all of them, because that is the main ones for what's going on at the planet at the moment, so I would expect you to have all 6 if it's an ascension process and if you're going through that space, then, and you want some sort of mentoring and some direction and some help in managing these symptoms and what you can do for yourself, any healing work to integrate that energy, please let me know. Send me a message, because I have just released a 3-session program that is heavily discounted to help people through this point in time, because it is super challenging, especially when you don't know where to go and you don't know what to look up or who to connect with, or somebody that you resonate with, or someone who can actually give you pragmatic tools to make the process easier. Then yeah, definitely send me a PM. I hope that you got some value from this video. If you did, please tag someone who you think may get some value from this, so they know they're not going crazy, they may not be dying, especially if all your blood works normal. Love this video if you like to see what I have to offer, and I will talk to you soon. Mwah!